give it a shot.
I'm cis, but like a bunch of cis people like getting in a room and like pontificating on pronouns. Like, don't we have better things to do with our time than like dog on people who?
Yeah, I mean, this is the question of our time. Do we have anything better to do than obsess over parts of speech? Pronouns. Are they out? What's next? Adjectives? Adverbs?
We
Let's see.
have ours. Are we not having sex with trans people?
Yeah,
right?
what if they self-identify as super cis and part of their identity
Oh gosh. Super. What is super cis? What are we talking about?
something that has identity level salience to them is smashing on trans people?
Did you just say if your gender identity is assaulting trans people? What is happening? This guy is losing it. Bigly.
Okay, where are we today?
Williams College.
A fine institution, and
All right. Here today we've got a nice new video. Getting some college students to answer some tough questions in an interesting format. Yeah, this is where the greatest minds come to debate children. Let's do it.
an elite institution. What is your major?
I haven't decided. I'm a sophomore.
And what is your major?
Unfortunately, political science.
Political science. So what is political science?
It's a way to go to grad school and not get a job.
That's good. That's good. Who's the president of the United States?
I thought it was Joe Biden,
right.
but we're still seeing.
Okay, good. Well, he knows what he's talking about. Okay.
Okay.
Students who mock university policy at this institution should be punished. Move.
Since who mock university policy. Okay, this is a pretty boring one. Is there any better prompt? Let's see. What else do we have?
Strongly disagree. Why do you strongly disagree?
I think that's not education.
Regardless of their university, puts out a statement that all students should be treated equally, regardless of their race. And some students on campus mock that policy.
This is one of those statements that when someone says it, you really do have to know where they're coming from, because what are they? It's kind of like, all lives matter, all students should be treated equally. What are we even referring to here? Like, what is the background context that we're talking about? Because obviously, yeah, I mean, all students should be treated equally. But if the context is, some POC student was just harassed by the police, so some kind of seminar was held for like racial bias training, and they're like, well, hey, a POC was harassed by police, but like we should spend just as much time doing training so that Caucasian students don't get harassed by police. I guess, sure, but it's kind of a weird thing to bring up in that moment. So this is, again, one of those like contextless. Let's see if we can get a better prompt. All right, next prompt.
Change.
Speedrunning.
It actually just continues the status quo. It doesn't change anything.
Okay, go back to the neutral.
All right, see what we got.
Independent of policy, mocking pronouns, not a person who says their pronouns, but mocking the idea that people can have different pronouns is hate speech.
This guy was a professor. He was a professor in the social sciences. Is social sciences different than humanities? Humanities includes literature, so you know parts of speech. Social sciences, you don't know parts of speech. Don't say mocking people for having different pronouns. People have different pronouns. Generally, men and women have different pronouns. A lot of men go with he, him. A lot of women go with she, her. That's, those are different pronouns. Say the actual thing that you mean. Why is this so Weasley? Why is it so so obfuscatory? Why doesn't he just say, is it okay to mock trans people for whatever they say their pronouns are, or for people who have neopronouns or something, some like new Zer pronouns? Why not just say the thing? These are such, like, what are we even talking about here? Why are these so vague?
Move. Mocking the idea, not mocking the people who say, call me, what have you, but mocking the idea of pronouns is hate speech.
Mocking the idea of pronouns as hate speech. Just say being mean to trans people. I don't understand.
Oh, we're gonna.
Well,
get into
let's
it.
start with sex-based pronouns.
Misgendering. I don't mocking. No one's done that. No one's mocked or some very uninformed people on Twitter have mocked the idea of people having pronouns because they never internalized or took a moment to think about when people are talking about pronouns are bad, that pronouns are just a part of English speech. But in general, people don't have issues with people having different pronouns. They have issue with trans people being recognized by the pronouns that match their gender or gender identity. No one has an issue with pronouns other than just kind of confused, uninformed people on social media.
Okay, sure.
Mocking someone's pronouns.
Mocking someone's pronouns, okay. So misgendering somebody is the only place that that's ever happened that I'm aware of. I don't think anybody's a cis woman who's like, oh yeah, I'm, this is how English works. No one ever mocks that. Maybe somebody mocks putting pronouns in your bio because they see that as supportive of trans people, and so they're mocking that.
Is a form of hate speech. Move. And I'm glad you clarified
It's just
that.
so vague.
I don't know.
We didn't clarify anything.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. It's good to be honest. What would it take you? So why are you on the neutral first?
Because I don't know how we're defining hate speech. Like I don't.
Or pronouns, or what is this question? Please give an example or a specific thing. This isn't anything.
I didn't walk into the room with like a classified definition of what hate speech is. I think it's rude. I think like you ought to be doing better things.
So we can all kind of guess and figure out what it is that he's trying to say. But how can you be a thought leader and been a professor for a long time, specifically of discourse and even like semantics, and these important, like trying to understand how linguistics forms the world around us, and then just not be able to form a coherent query.
Things with your time than like making fun of something that
Come on, let's just
has like nothing to do with you.
up the standards a little bit.
Hate speech. Maybe if you like go up to but you're saying it's hate speech if a person is just making fun of it abstract of another person.
Correct.
I guess not, because you're not enacting violence onto.
Yeah, I don't think it's exactly hate speech to say. Yeah. To say what exactly? To say I don't think people should put pronouns in their bio. I don't think that's hate speech for mocking that. ContraPoints, who's famously trans, has talked about how she's sometimes, not crazy with this kind of liberal practice of like, oh, everybody goes in a circle, says your pronouns, because from her perspective, it's kind of like, well, why are we doing this right now? It's because there's like a trans person present. And so you're almost othering trans people by saying, oh, let's all be inclusive around pronouns. You're drawing more attention to it. I think there's totally reasonable debates within the trans community about that practice. So if that's what he's talking about, then there's no problem with that, obviously. But if you're saying, I don't think we should refer to trans people by the pronouns that match their gender or gender identity, I don't think that's hate speech. I think it's kind of hateful, but if you're just saying that abstractly, not about a person in particular, I don't think that's hate speech, no?
You're not going up to a person and like making fun of them, so I guess that's not.
Yeah,
Hate
that's
speech. I don't
not
know.
hate speech. Yeah, it's just,
What do you think?
I don't know.
Well, I think in many ways, people try to conflate these issues of identity politics with issues like race. And I think hate speech based on those is quite different, as in people actively choose how to identify. And in that sense, it's a very different discussion.
Unpack that for me a little bit.
Yeah, like I would say it's this notion of identity politics has become very politicized, and people choose how to identify.
Look, I mean, he's like he's like a freshman or something in college. So identity politics has become politicized. What do you make of a statement like that? In a way, yes, because identity politics it was originally just a statement that people bring their political identities to topics. So it was just a recognition of something that's obvious. And now it's become just referring to gatekeeping, that you shouldn't speak on a topic unless you're part of an identity group. So identity politics has been politicized.
Which pronoun.
But he's saying something different, which is that being trans is different from being racialized in America, which it is different. But I don't think it's simply the case that somebody who's trans chooses to identify differently. Everybody is gender generally in America, the way everybody is racialized. These are things that happen to people, and the way that our own decisions of how to present or how we identify ourselves. Somebody who's biracial may identify as black. Somebody, if somebody is 1/16 black, are they black? Are they biracial? Are they white? These are kind of open questions within society that come up, or how one identifies themselves, or how they choose to present in different ways. Both of these things occur in very, very open ways.
Pronouns, how they affiliate with political groups,
speed this up a little
XYZ.
bit.
And when you look at that, it's very different than, per se, something like race. And to even make fun of it, a sense of freedom of speech, it is really something about, I don't think that people should be penalized for that. And I think it's a very different discussion than these other issues.
The question isn't whether or not you should be penalized. The question is it hate speech?
Is it hateful? Is it hate speech? I mean, it's not hate speech to criticize an overall concept. That I don't think we should gender trans people correctly. I think that's hateful. It's clearly not hate speech, because you're not hating on any particular person. You're not hating on, like, you're kind of hating on trans people, but I think that's an abstract enough thing that I wouldn't refer to that at all. I don't think that makes sense to call that hate speech. But it could be hateful. But this is such like a toothless conversation. Hey, welcome. The actual topic. So the title of this video is "Will Pronouns Survive the Cultural Shift?" It's a lot of vague stuff. Something about trans people pronouns, but I don't know if we'll really get into some meat of the topic.
Why not?
Because I think it is something that's very different from issues like race. And even making fun of it, I think, is something that does not rise to that level.
So do you classify like contempt for people who don't have like sex-based pronouns, as was defined by the whiteboard Q, as like, do you classify that contempt as hatred, or just like, oh, that's not something that vibes with my political worldview? And is that not hate?
I think it's a waste of time. If somebody identifies as somebody identifies as a certain way, if somebody's spending their entire life or their own time sort of actively going against that, there's better things to be doing.
Well, I have an argument that I've kind of been running for a couple of days.
Sure.
Like floating around in my head.
Sure, this is
I
a
think-
great place for that.
Thanks. Great platform. Thanks, guys.
Extra credit.
Extra
teachers are
credit.
here.
I think it's a profound waste of time. Like a bunch of like, I'm cis, but like a bunch of cis people like getting in a room and like pontificating on pronouns. Like, don't we have better things to do with our time than like?
That's a pretty good question. But how else are you going to win elections? If Kamala isn't giving transgender surgeries personally to inmates, which is a Trump era policy, by the way, that she was just commenting that that's the law. But if Kamala isn't going down to prisons and personally performing trans surgeries, how are we going to win elections, right? This is the most important issue of our time. How are we going to lower grocery prices if we don't talk nonstop about pronouns, right? This is the real stuff.
Like dog on people who we disagree with their like identity or way of life. Like, what business is that of ours? Are we not? And then to say like we're wasting our time, or they're wasting their time in being trans or having like non-sex based pronouns or whatever you want to call it. Are we not like expending energy on like dogging on people? Isn't that kind of a waste of time?
What if they self-identify as, have you heard super cis?
Yes, I have. That's like where you don't want to have sex with trans people.
Yeah,
right?
what if they self-identify as super cis and part of
That's such a weird it's just the wrong category. Anybody can not want to date or have sex with trans people. Like this is not an issue. This is not a thing that people are kept up at night, or there's like a lot of discourse around this. If you don't want to do that, don't do that. And that's fine. That's not an issue. But super cis, that has nothing to do with your gender identity, that's a sexual preference. So it's just a wrong category. It's so weird. Yeah, I don't know. This is why we have things like gender studies, is so that we can have coherent conversations around these topics that clearly a lot of people care about. Clearly there's cis people who care strongly about this, but I wish that we could have kind of informed conversations around this. Yeah, that has nothing to do with being cis.
Part of their identity, something that has identity level salience to them, is smashing on trans people. And if you say they can't do that, aren't you demeaning to their identity?
I mean,
What? No, this is just not a topic.
like that's the same argument as is
I mean, what if your identity was like, I'm super white, and that means that, you know, I really don't want to see black people like going into stores. I don't think they should be able to go into stores. That's offensive to me. You can't define your identity as like subjugating other people's identity. That's not how that works. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you should dog on people for not wanting to date or have sex with trans people. Like that's fine if that's your preference. There's absolutely no problem with that. And the clearer you say that, the clearer, you know, trans people know to not try to date or have sex with you, because obviously that's not going to go well or be safe or, you know, happy for anyone. This is not an issue.
isn't it demeaning to the white supremacist or the KKK member that they can't like? I don't know. Wait, because that's like kind of a crazy thing to say on my part. But
No, we can.
No, I think she's totally right on. If you were super white, and to you super white means it's upsetting to me that there are black people in my country. I'm super white, that's my identity. These are nonsensical definitions.
Come on with that if you want. We can experiment that. You want to run with that?
I don't know. I don't think like your sexual, like your preferences and who you like want to be romantic or sexual with, like I don't know why it has to inherently be an exclusionary thing. Like I don't know why you have to say like I'm super cis. You could just say I don't want to be with a trans person. And
Yes. Oh my God, so enlightened. Amazing.
I don't know why like you have to define your sexuality as an exclusive thing rather than an inclusive thing. It's like I only prefer to have sex with cis people. Whatever. I don't care who you have sex with.
Jimmy, go back to the neutral. Everybody, go back to the neutral.
Yeah.
People should
the
be
nail on
able
the
to
head.
identify out of their sex.
Identify out of, like, why can't he form a coherent statement? I know he's a smart guy. He's been a professor of social studies. So I feel like he should have this capacity. The fact that he doesn't ever seem to do this makes me think that it's intentional, right? Should be able to identify out of your sex. You should be able to identify your gender category as something that isn't in alignment with what we would expect with your sex. People shouldn't be able to be trans. Like, just say the thing. Why do you have to try to make us guess what it is that you're trying to say? Just say it. You've got your own channel. Lots of people like you. You don't have to be kind of like weird about this.
Move.
All right, this will be the last question.
People should be able to identify out of their race. Move.
Again, if somebody is biracial, if somebody is 1/16 black, in America we might say that they're black. What if they want to say that they're white? What if they're half black? Most people would say that they're black. What if they want to say that they're white? You know, that's a thing. Are there transracial people? I'm not sure that that's like a thing that's ever, you know, there's like one or two people in the world who identify that way. This doesn't seem to be like a community of people who have this thing. And the ways that we, you know, you could say that race is, you know, a social construct, and the way that we recognize these things in some ways are very fixed, in some ways are very open. But it is kind of like a weird thing to compare it to. Maybe they'll go into detail.
Well,
Culturally, like,
well, no, I can say that.
Okay, I gotta run. Make this a fun short little video. I'll do a second part in the last 5 minutes. it looks like it might be heating up. So I've got a good feeling about the next bit. Thanks everybody for coming through. Take care. Bye.